The narrator wonders what actually makes someone human when brains can be swapped and minds can be stabilized with drugs. Looking at the strange machine that only makes weird noises, the boy asks himself if his mother is truly alive or dead. He remembers when she had to get a cheap metal body because she got a terrible disease and had no other choice. This bad frame left her completely paralyzed and forced her to stay plugged into a wall charger all day long. Saying goodbye to his motionless parent, the young man leaves their tiny apartment to head out for another shift. Lighting a cigarette, he looks at the massive cyber city and feels completely overwhelmed by the depressing view. Walking through the crowds, he reveals they did not even have enough money to pay for that terrible metal frame. To pay for that metal frame, the main character had to take on a massive amount of debt. Even though he works without any holidays, the massive corporate screens constantly tell everyone to have a happy day. His phone suddenly rings with a notification saying that the next security shift involves urban combat on Street B4. The young man sighs because finding any true happiness in the ruined streets of 2055 Seoul is impossible. Armed rebels suddenly appear from the shadows, and the security squad gets ready to defend their corporate territory. A violent shootout begins instantly as bullets fly everywhere and turn the narrow alleyways into a complete war zone. Bodies fall to the ground during the chaos, and the teenager can only watch the brutal reality of his daily job. An armored enemy suddenly jumps at Hanel, who gets completely caught off guard. The heavy opponent slams the young guard straight onto the hard ground. Struggling to survive, the teenager desperately tries to reach for his weapon. He fires a quick shot at point-blank range to blow the metal monster away. Panting heavily, the boy realizes just how close he came to losing his life. After getting his paycheck notification, Hanul secretly wishes he could run away from this city. Knowing his deep wound will not heal on its own, he decides to visit the company clinic. Along the dark path, he runs into a mysterious girl with white hair holding a strange box. The white-haired girl is suddenly cornered by two local thugs who do not look friendly at all. One of the guys maliciously kicks her leg and causes her to drop the fragile container she was holding. The glass shatters completely on the ground, and the bully mockingly tells her to clean up the mess. Before things can get any worse, a mysterious hooded man smoking a cigarette appears behind them. Instead of using words, he coolly puts out his burning cigarette right on the jacket of the main bully. The girl watches in surprise as the newcomer calmly kneels to help her gather the scattered pieces on the floor. The girl warns the bullies about the medical department, and the boy makes a weird joke about steam engines. After hearing those weird words, the two thugs decided to leave them alone and walked away. A bright smile appears on her face as she thanks him for saving her from those guys. Pain suddenly shoots through his body, and he falls to his knees while clutching his chest. The guard explains that he got hurt during a brutal corporate mission and probably broke his ribs. She reveals that she is a pharmacist and pulls out a medical kit filled with remedies. Offering some pills, she tells him to take them 3 times a day, and he turns to walk away. Before the wounded hero can leave, the mysterious girl calls out to stop him. The girl suddenly stops him to ask if he has some free time so they can grab a nice meal together. The boy gets highly suspicious and jokingly asks if she is planning to rob him since he is completely broke. She laughs and says she already saw him checking his empty balance multiple times while buying those pills. Even though he finds her suspicious, he knows she has no reason to target a weak guy with zero cash. He briefly remembers his paralyzed mother waiting at home, but a free dinner is just too good to pass up. Giving in to his hunger, the tired teenager decides that accepting a single free meal will not hurt. His jaw drops when she leads him straight to a fancy restaurant that looks way too expensive for him. Grabbing his hand, the friendly pharmacist drags him inside because she wants to learn more about his life. Feeling nervous inside the fancy restaurant, the boy plans to eat quickly and heads straight back home. While sitting together at the table, the girl introduces herself as Seo-hyun and asks about his job. He reveals his job as a temporary guard while chewing on bread because the expensive meat looks too confusing. The pharmacist remarks how dangerous his work is, but he knows he must survive to pay off his massive debt. Smiling gently, the white-haired girl suddenly grabs his hand and helps him cut the food so he can eat properly. Eating something other than instant noodles feels like a dream, and she suggests getting some fresh air in the park. Standing under the starry sky, the teen explains how his mother's expensive body forced him into this endless loop. The teen mentions he would love to work for a mega company, and Seo-hyun reveals she actually used to work for one. This news shocks the young man since these giant corporations basically rule the entire collapsed city of Seoul. He asks why she left such a good job, and the white-haired girl explains she wanted to find true human perfection. After hearing her grand dream, she asks about his own goals, and he mentions wanting to relax on a tropical beach. She finds his wish a bit funny while they walk back together through the quiet streets under the dark night sky. Checking his phone, the boy realizes it is already late and politely thanks her because he must head back home. Seo-hyun playfully teases him about letting a girl walk alone at night, and the sudden comment completely catches him off guard. She mentions feeling a deep sense of kinship, and straight up confesses that she might have developed romantic feelings for him. Although his paralyzed mother is waiting back home, he decides that being late for just a few minutes will be fine. The young man agrees to walk her to her house, and they slowly stroll together through the peaceful night streets. The girl suddenly asks why he has not upgraded to a metal body, and he explains that he simply does not have the cash. She calmly explains that steel frames are just cheap tools and suggests finding a much more fundamental way to exist. The girl talks about defying causality, and the boy gets totally confused by her deep words. She looks closely at him and asks if he has ever thought about the root of human suffering. The white-haired pharmacist wonders if the true meaning of life is just endless pain. Reaching her place, she thanks him for walking her back, and he says it was the least he could do. The guard says he needs to head home, but her hand suddenly grabs his jacket to stop him from leaving. She quickly pulls him inside her apartment, and the heavy door slams completely shut behind them. Standing in her dark room, the teenager feels incredibly shocked by the strange view of the city. The girl suddenly asks if he wants to throw everything away and run far away from his exhausting life. Hearing her tempting words, the young guard hesitates, because he knows he has too many responsibilities. He immediately remembers his massive debt and his paralyzed mother who is waiting for him to return home. Seo-hyun looks at him with a warm smile while the teenager struggles to make the right decision. She gently tells him that it is perfectly fine to just relax and forget about his hard life for a single day. His phone screen flashes with 5 missed calls from his mother while they share a silent embrace. The white-haired girl watches him in the shadows with a mysterious look that suggests she has a dark plan. Sitting on the bed, the girl notices his distracted look and jokingly teases him for thinking about his mother. He explains that his mother cannot even speak but kept calling him, which immediately makes the girl tell him to go home. The protagonist admits he had a great time, and she suggests they should keep meeting whenever life gets too hard. Saying his goodbyes, the young man quickly runs out of her place to finally head back to his own apartment. On his way back, he remembers a dark memory from his childhood right after a massive war broke out. The boy got lost in the dangerous slums back when wicked human traffickers were constantly kidnapping innocent children. Sweat drips down his face as the helpless kid suddenly hears footsteps echoing right behind him in the dark alley. Turning around in pure terror, he looks up at a massive bandage-faced stranger looming directly over his small body. Falling to the ground during the scary flashback, the kid hears his name and looks up at a dark shadow in the red doorway. Suddenly, a loud gunshot echoes through the dark alley as the dangerous stranger is instantly taken down in a flash of red. His mother desperately rushes over to embrace her child while sobbing with absolute relief that he is completely unharmed. Shielding his eyes, she tells him not to look while the young boy wonders if this was his mother's very first murder. Feeling her trembling hands smell of gunpowder, the young protagonist silently resolved to protect her when he grew up. Escaping those old memories, the tired teenager finally slides open his apartment door and walks inside the dark room. Apologizing for being late, he sits beside the motionless metallic machine and starts talking about his weird day. He talks to his motionless mother about the dinner and admits he did not even realize it was a date. Looking down, the teenager wonders why she kept calling him since she never got to say a single word. He suddenly notices that wild rats chewed through the electrical wires and completely ruined the system. The guard immediately brings his mother's metal body to a shady corporate service center for a quick repair. Standing inside the dark workshop, the boy nervously asks the heavy mechanic about his mother's condition. The mechanic heartlessly explains that her brain is completely dead and tells the boy to hold a funeral. Walking outside the devastated ruins, the grieving boy immediately contacts his insurance company for help. The cold corporate voice on the phone explains that her old model is no longer eligible for any support. Feeling completely betrayed by the cold response, the boy hangs up the call in absolute frustration. Carrying his mother's remains, he walks toward a fenced incinerator yard where some sketchy thugs are standing. He accidentally bumps into one of the guys who immediately gets angry and starts shouting at him to get lost. The aggressive bully notices the metal container and mockingly asks if that disgusting tin can belongs to his parent. Seeing his silent reaction, the jerk laughs and says his mom should have ended things before he was even born. Fortunately, the other gang members pull their loud friend away before a violent fight can break out in the alley. The main character clutches his fists in pure rage but forces himself to stay quiet to avoid any more trouble. He sadly reveals she is no longer legally seen as a human, so burning her in the incinerator is his only choice. He remembers that they had absolutely no friends, so a funeral would only invite mockery from others. Tears of regret fill his eyes as the sad teenager wishes he had returned home much earlier to save his mother. The scene shifts to the head of security for Future Corporation, who is a weird brain-headed guy named Sanabro. He announces that a rogue doctor stole some crazy tech and is currently contacting the local civilians. One of the young security guards raises her hand and calmly asks if they should kill or capture their targets. The ruthless boss replies that they can kill any civilians but must capture anyone using the tech alive. Rain pours down as the young guard returns to Seo-hyun's place and sits down in complete silence. The pharmacist playfully asks if he is about to confess his feelings to her. The boy looks down and quietly reveals that his mother passed away. He calls himself pathetic for running to a girl he barely knows because he has nobody else left in his life. Before he can walk away into the cold rain, she suddenly approaches and wraps him in a warm embrace. Resting against her shoulder, he mutters that his entire life is just a complete failure. Seo-hyun looks at him with caring eyes and says his life is incredibly meaningful just the way it is. So-hyun believes they are destined to be together and promises to protect him from any future sadness. Gently cradling his face, she vows to make him happy and thanks him for finding her in this dark world. Holding a strange illustration, showing a spine, the girl explains how much she loves building tall card towers. Looking out at the city, she compares human lives to those towers that people spend their whole lives building. With a simple tap, she knocks the entire stack down to show how easily everything can collapse in an instant. The confused young man wonders what she actually means by this weird metaphor, while she just smiles back at him. Holding her warm mug, she calmly states that humans are weak by design, so she did whatever it took to fix that. The white-haired girl explains she only joined that giant company to find a secret technology called Pandora Inheritance. Looking at him, she claims that humans are trapped in an endless cycle of cause and effect which only leads to sadness. Gently touching his chest, she asks the young guard if he truly wants to be completely free from his heavy burdens. Leaning extremely close, the mysterious pharmacist promises to guide him to a beautiful world where no pain exists. Their quiet moment is suddenly interrupted when a small cup on the table begins to shake and falls over. The teenager immediately senses a weird vibration in the air and wonders what is happening outside. Under the sudden red lights, she narrows her eyes and calmly prepares for the incoming trouble. Suddenly, the door gets blasted open as the corporate security team bursts inside with their weapons ready. Reacting instantly, the pharmacist pulls out a weapon and tries to fight her way through the elite corporate soldiers. Despite her impressive speed, she is quickly overwhelmed by the heavily armed squad. Before the teenager can even react, heavy rifle barrels are pointed straight at his head, and he is forced to raise his hands. The cold soldiers identify Seo-hyun as a doctor and order her to surrender while she furiously tells them to get lost. While one guard dismisses the boy as a simple civilian, the other suddenly recognizes his face and grins maliciously. The cruel soldier mockingly points out that this is the same poor kid who recently cremated his parent at the junkyard. He continues to spit out disgusting insults about her cheap metallic frame and even threatens to burn the teenager alive. The cruel soldier keeps mocking the boy about his deceased mother, while suggesting they should finish him off quickly. Another guard warns his partner to keep an eye on the kid, but the arrogant man completely ignores the threat. Before he can even finish his sentence, a sudden gunshot echoes and the talkative soldier gets blasted away. Holding his smoking weapon, the teenager stands there with a completely cold and empty look in his eyes. The remaining corporate guards quickly try to react and adjust their high-tech guns for rapid fire. Showing zero mercy, the angry protagonist fires a massive blast that instantly takes down another armored opponent. After a final loud explosion, the last surviving enemy collapses onto the hard ground in complete shock. Haniel calmly loads his pistol while the surviving soldier breaks into a cold sweat. He raises the heavy gun and aims it directly at the trembling corporate guard. Desperate to survive, the injured enemy leaps forward with a blade to make a final attack. The protagonist easily dodges the strike and hits the opponent with a powerful counter. With a swift move, he disarms his target and sends the weapon flying across the floor. Screaming in pure rage, the young man stares down with completely cold and lifeless eyes. The firearm lands right between them, and the desperate man immediately lunges to grab it. The countdown begins as both desperate men dive forward to grab the fallen gun. The heavy firearm slowly spins through the air before hitting the hard floor right between them. Clawing desperately at the cold ground, the teenager tries to drag his broken body toward the weapon. Heavy boots suddenly block his path, and he looks up to see the twisted smile of his enemy. Standing triumphantly over the defeated hero, the corporate soldier aims the pistol directly at his forehead. A loud gunshot rings out in the darkness as the final blow is brutally delivered to the young guard. Blood drips silently from his face while a phone starts ringing inside a dark, messy apartment across the city. In a dark, messy apartment, a female guard with mechanical legs answers the phone to hear some bad news about Haniel. Hearing the update, she calmly remarks that the defeated boy was simply too weak to survive in this harsh world. As she gets ready to head out, her emotion control device automatically activates to keep her completely calm. Riding her high-tech motorcycle through the massive city, she quickly arrives at the corporate headquarters. The commander begins the briefing by explaining that 3 of their guards have been taken down by a rogue doctor. The robotic-legged girl asks if they are fighting machines, and the boss explains the targets are in a bunker. The strict leader emphasizes that they must capture the primary targets alive no matter what. The squad split up as the young woman is assigned to the second team, which is tasked with finding them. Clenching her heavy metallic fist, the eager guard prepares herself for the upcoming battle inside the bunker. The corporate soldiers quickly board their high-tech transport ship and head straight toward the target zone. On the radio, a masked soldier gets a shocking update that the enemy managed to take out 3 of their elite fighters. Their boss explains that the wounded young guard should be dead unless the rogue doctor performed a special surgery on him. The team is ordered to breach the bunker quietly using lasers because the target might now be a mindless corporate puppet. Meanwhile, the young protagonist slowly wakes up in a dark place and tries to remember the details of his last battle. He accepts his fate and honestly believes that dying is much better than ending up trapped inside a cheap metal frame. His eyes suddenly snap open as a strange metallic smell fills the room and a cold feeling runs through his body. Looking down, he is completely horrified to discover that his original human body has been replaced with a mechanical frame. Tears fall as the young man slowly opens his eyes to realize that he is now trapped in a cheap metal body. Staring at his new robotic hands, he looks at his reflection in absolute horror after seeing what he has become. Slowly walking forward, the boy looks around the glowing yellow facility and tries to understand where he is. The mysterious woman approaches and calmly notes that even breathing must feel extremely strange with his new body. Struggling to balance on his heavy metal legs, the teenager accepts her help when she tells him to lean on her. Checking the complex wires connected to his spine, she mentions that his system is running perfectly fine for now. The confused kid asks what happened to his actual self, and she happily replies that his surgery was a complete success. The doctor explains they moved his mind into a priceless body that even the wealthiest people on Earth could never buy. Confused by her words, the boy listens as she describes a secret superhuman project funded with massive resources. Looking down, the shocked teenager spots his actual organic brain preserved inside a strange glowing container. Laughing softly, she tells him he is the absolute latest model and asks how it feels to return from the dead. The guard simply shrugs it off as nothing special, but the clever girl tells him to say what he truly thinks inside. Staring away, the tired teenager admits that passing away forever might have actually been a much better option for him. She gently touches his shoulder and encourages him to be more honest with himself before her eyes suddenly narrow. The doctor explains that they need one more procedure because his human brain is rejecting the new metal body. She tells the confused teenager to lie down immediately because they do not have much time left. The boy looks up and wonders if going through with this strange operation will finally make him feel happy. With a gentle smile, the white-haired girl promises he will become like a child who can accept himself. Meanwhile, the corporate squad led by the robotic-legged girl successfully breaches the dark basement of the bunker. The female guard stays alert and prepares her high-tech weapon for a potential fight inside the narrow corridors. Checking her tactical screen, she confirms the area is clear, but a sudden red sensor flashes in the dark. Sliding open a heavy door, the female guard steps inside the dark room and stays on high alert. Her eyes go wide with pure shock when she discovers a secret laboratory filled with glowing experimental tubes. Inside those yellow containers, several human brains are hooked up to terrifying mechanical spine chassis. Shaking off her surprise, the young woman contacts her headquarters to report that they successfully reached the target. Another squad member commands her to breach the area as soon as the main power grid becomes fully stable. Moving rapidly, the armed corporate team blasts through the doors and rushes straight into the main room. They corner the rogue doctor and immediately accuse her of violating corporate policy. The robotic-legged female guard steps forward and calmly announces that the rogue doctor is now under arrest. Instead of showing fear, the smart doctor raises her hands and casually complains about her patient being interrupted. While surrounded by dangerous rifles, the smiling woman mockingly calls them fast corporate dogs. She gently suggests solving this peacefully while secretly revealing a small electronic button in her hand. The security agent senses immediate danger, but the clever doctor presses the trigger before anyone can move. A sudden massive blast of energy erupts and violently knocks the elite soldier straight onto the hard floor. Struggling to stand, the injured soldier gasps and wonders what kind of gravity weapon was used against them. Looking down with a calm smile, the mysterious woman explains that she is actually using primal causality to win. A massive mechanical shadow suddenly rises and looms over the terrified corporate guards who try to hide. The giant skeletal frame moves with unbelievable speed and ruthlessly crushes the soldiers who stand in its way. Her teammates quickly drag the shocked female guard away before the mechanical monster can take her down. The soldiers desperately call for suppression fire, while the white-haired doctor watches the scene with a calm smile. Inside the dark void of his mind, a sudden mechanical click signals that the integration is finally complete. The extremely tall skeletal frame stands majestically on the cracked ground as its systems fully activate. She calls out his name and gently reminds him that he is just a young kid who was trying to protect his mother. She whispers that his mother is gone and tells the grieving boy to focus entirely on his anger to fight back. A sudden shockwave of pure energy blasts through the room and leaves the corporate soldiers completely paralyzed with fear. The giant skeletal frame stands tall in front of them as the mysterious doctor mentions the word causality. She explains that cause and effect shape history and create a massive force that normal humans can never resist. According to her words, everything from the first human steps to the stars can be traced directly back to gravity. That primordial force shaped the entire universe and touched every single living thing since the beginning of time. Looking at the terrifying black hole hovering above his metal shoulders, she wonders if this monster is still human. A terrified corporate soldier tries to point his weapon at the towering mechanical monster. With a simple wave of his hand, the giant skeleton uses his gravity power to crush the enemy into the dirt. The other guards swear in absolute anger before a massive shockwave hits them and distorts the area. Standing inside a deep crater, the terrifying machine easily looms over the defenseless survivors. Each heavy step he takes completely shatters the solid concrete ground beneath his feet. Looking down with a glowing eye, the black hole monster leaps high into the air with dark energy. Deep inside the broken rubble, the female guard named Ha-Yoon slowly wakes up as her radio phone rings. Slowly waking up from the debris, the injured female guard realizes she is the only survivor of her unit. She observes the giant skeleton and notices that its heavy gravity attacks actually slow it down and cause self-damage. After her emotion control system stabilizes, the young warrior decides to keep her distance to survive this nightmare. The opponent has maintained his heavy field for 6 minutes, causing massive cracks to form all over his new body. Knowing that nothing can escape physical laws, she aims her weapon to force the monster into a complete overload. The girl continuously shoots while backing away to widen the gap between them and avoid getting crushed. The towering skeleton slowly pursues her but struggles to move forward because of his own massive weight. The giant skeleton grabs the guard and violently slams her down with his incredible gravity powers. The girl screams in pain as her mechanical leg gets completely crushed under his heavy pressure. Crawling away in defeat, she uses her radio to report that the entire rescue mission has completely failed. Suddenly, a massive burst of energy erupts as the giant skeletal monster completely overloads and shuts down. Watching the giant machine fall, the injured female soldier quickly confirms that the target is finally disabled. Back at headquarters, the corporate boss orders his team to secure the target because he is the perfect candidate. He dictates a contract claiming that the teenager used their secret tech and now his body belongs to the company. Riding the transport vehicle back to base, the female guard sits down to check her robotic legs and rest after the mission. Meanwhile, some workers in yellow protective gear quickly move the captured boy toward the main interrogation room. Arriving at Sector 54, the young woman stands by the massive chamber and quietly stares out at the city view. The brain-headed boss asks about the sedative dose and she admits she was extremely nervous during the entire ride. Knowing the boy will wake up soon, the leader orders the scientists to keep the surrounding environment completely stable. He raises his hand and hopes that the reinforced walls are strong enough to prevent the teenager from destroying the room. With a subtle tilt of his weird head, the strange commander decides to step inside and face their new captive directly. Sinabro sits down and confirms that all preparations to face their powerful captive are finally complete. A worried scientist warns him about the extreme danger, but the confident commander decides to take full responsibility. Walking through the heavy blast door, the glowing yellow hologram of the boss steps inside the secure room. The leader calmly sits on a cheap chair and commands the operators to release all the heavy restraints. The containment chamber slowly opens with a loud hiss to reveal the dark silhouette of the teenage guard. The technician panics over bringing such a monster inside while his female coworker tells him to stop whining. Looking down with empty eyes, the quiet protagonist slowly raises his mechanical hand to inspect his new frame. The glowing boss politely welcomes the teenager and calmly reassures him that they do not have to be enemies. He then commands an assistant to bring over the young guard's clothes, even though they are still covered in dry blood. The commander jokingly offers laundry service and tells him not to worry about the 3 guards he killed earlier. Sinabro asks if Dr. Soyun was the one who operated on him, and the boy slowly puts on his coat and agrees. The weird leader pretends to show some sympathy, but the quiet teenager remains highly cautious of his strange words. He explains that Hanuel is now charged under corporate law for the unauthorized use of their special-grade technology. Pointing at the kid's open chest, the boss states that carrying that stolen project in his body is a massive crime. Hanuel claims he has no memory, but Sinabro questions his statement while showing the giant monster. The boss reveals that the terrifying mechanical beast from the battlefield was actually the young guard himself. Although the teenager keeps denying it, the cold leader decides to show him his current situation. Pressing a red button, the commander causes the boy's face to glitch and break apart into digital particles. Sinabro explains that Seo-hyun completely digitized his brain and replaced his original flesh with technology. Holding a small memory card, the speaker reveals that his entire life is now stored inside a tiny computer chip. The brain-headed commander mockingly points out that the helpless kid cannot even speak because he lacks a mouth. Because his mechanical body contains their stolen gravity device, the company now claims complete ownership over him. Clutching his head in shock, the boy listens as the boss mentions dismantling his new body to retrieve their tech. The commander offers him a deal to work as their watchdog and pay off his massive debt to earn his freedom. Curious about his freedom, the young guard asks exactly how much this advanced technology is actually worth. The teenager gasps in absolute shock when the leader calmly reveals the price is about 7 trillion. He explains that even famous superstars would have to work without rest for 192 years to pay that. Sinabro claims this price is actually quite cheap compared to ancient warships that cost 15 trillion. The weird commander reminds him that he is the first gravity unit and warns him what happens if he refuses the offer. The brain-headed boss threatens to dismantle his mechanical parts, and the teenager angrily calls this total robbery. The commander politely asks him to calm down, but the boy is too furious to listen to his words. Pointing at the massive damage, the boss notes that wasting such a unique talent would be bad for everyone. The leader presents 2 digital contracts and gives the silent teenager a choice between death and employment. Accepting the dangerous deal, the protagonist gets officially welcomed as the heavy collar locks onto his throat. The speaker warns him that a powerful control device is now active to stop him from ever defying their orders. To pay off his massive debt, the new watchdog must head out to capture the rogue doctor who saved his life. The boss introduces the female guard as his supervisor and tells her to show him his room. While walking outside together under the dark sky, his new partner quietly lights up a cigarette. The boy watches her and tries to break the ice by asking if he can also have one. Instead of being friendly, the girl gives him a very cold look and tells him to shut up. Heavy rain suddenly starts pouring down, but she only opens an umbrella for herself. The poor protagonist gets completely soaked while walking behind her in total silence. They finally arrive at his room, and she warns him not to mess up the place. Looking out at the dark city, the young man wonders if he will ever find true peace. Staring out into the heavy rain, the young guard sadly admits to himself that he really misses his mother. Looking at his weird metallic reflection in the dark, he decides it is probably best to just go to sleep early. Suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes in his mind while a strange vision of his red skeletal body floats before him. The female guard then asks if he thinks that his entire painful life is actually nothing more than a bad dream. Sohyun suddenly appears in his mind and asks if he was ordered by the company to find her. She mocks him for agreeing to the deal, and the boy wonders if he is currently having a weird hallucination. The girl suddenly asks if he likes video games and says his tutorial phase has only just finished. He asks if she is actually real, and she says she exists just like him as their hands almost meet. The main character begs for her help because he does not want to live the rest of his life as a debt slave. She looks away in silence before reminding him that he was the one who chose to accept that terrible deal. Sitting under the red sky, the young man stays completely silent because he does not know how to respond to her. Sohyun finds his panicked reaction amusing while the desperate teenager begs her to save his life. She agrees to help and instructs him to tell the corporate bosses that she hacked directly into his mind. She explains this link will prevent them from recycling him, and she even mentions his dream of going to Tahiti. She promises to set him free if he finds her first, and the boy finally snaps back to reality in his room. The corporate boss notes that the rookie is having hallucinations while his chip is locked with strange codes. Scientists inspect his system and discover artificial chemicals that resemble the feelings of falling in love. Realizing the doctor branded him as her own property, the boss orders his supervisor to start a harsh interrogation. The supervisor smokes a cigarette and complains about having to clean up after a pathetic loser who got tricked by a woman. The scientist explains that his system makes it impossible to disobey, but the supervisor is still highly annoyed by the job. Getting increasingly annoyed, she orders the scientists to wake the boy up so they can finally start the interrogation. They quickly administer a powerful electric shock that forces the young protagonist to wake up in pain. Gasping for air, the helpless teenager collapses on the floor right in front of his cold supervisor. She looks down and directly asks if he really saw a mysterious illusion of the rogue doctor in his mind. Narrowing her blue eyes, the woman demands to know why this secret mental link was automatically reported to the company. She coldly reminds the rookie that his life is held as collateral and that the smart doctor easily manipulated him. While the scanners analyze his emotions, the boy quietly asks if completing this mission will finally grant him freedom. The supervisor immediately shuts down his hopes by explaining that his desire for freedom was just a silly dream. Leaning dangerously close, the strict woman warns the young guard about the severe punishments that await any liars. She promises to completely dismantle his body into cheap scrap metal if he ever tries to work with the rogue doctor. Their tense conversation is suddenly interrupted by their boss, who orders them to stop and look at a special screen. Turning toward the monitor, they see a strange creature with massive growing tusks as the commander explains its nature. The boss compares his dangerous power to wild tusks that will pierce his own brain if he loses control. To prevent any future rampage, they use advanced technology to completely seal away his exposed energy source. The supervisor then commands the technicians to release his mechanical body, so he can finally move around. He is warned that using his gravity power without permission will result in him being turned into a generator. The tired teenager agrees because he has absolutely no intention of ever using that terrifying ability again. Without wasting another second, his cold supervisor orders him to follow her out of the interrogation room. They quickly climb inside a military vehicle and drive through the ruined city streets in complete silence. Arriving at the civilian branch, their ultimate mission as corporate hounds is to track down the rogue doctor. Their new mission is to capture a corporate executive named Baek Si-woo, who secretly worked with the rogue doctor. Learning that the corporation monitors absolutely everything makes the young rookie feel highly uncomfortable. They slowly walk together into a suspicious-looking building with glowing panels lining the dark hallways. A strange receptionist wearing a formal suit welcomes them to a unique establishment designed for any preference. The weird host shows them a suspicious menu offering different courses for their ultimate entertainment. The story flashes back to 10 minutes before entering when the female supervisor gave him some basic rules. She repeatedly forces him to recite the safety rules until the tired teenager gets completely annoyed. The female supervisor warns him to stay quiet and follow her lead as they step inside the strange building. The young protagonist looks at the glowing lights while a weird green-faced waiter welcomes them to paradise. The supervisor pretends to be clueless and the polite host asks if the two of them are currently in a relationship. After a moment of silent awkwardness, the boy quickly claims they are indeed a couple to keep their cover intact. She asks to check the rooms first while wondering if this sketchy establishment is just a regular local bar. The green host grins and brags that they offer advanced robotic companion services that can satisfy any fantasy. Hoping to find their target, the supervisor smiles and asks the waiter to show them the full list of services. With a massive grin, the host shows them the room catalog while the female guard inspects the cozy layout options. She specifically asks if the windows are completely private to make sure nobody can see them from the outside. Staring quietly, she wonders if this sketchy business is actually used for illegal things like organ trafficking. A heavy silence quickly fills the warm room as the fan spins on the ceiling and the clock ticks away. This direct question completely catches the green host off guard and causes him to break into a cold sweat. To break the tense silence, she casually requests a drink and asks if indoor smoking is allowed in the building. Lighting her cigarette, she ignores the host who tries to hide his intense irritation behind a massive fake smile. The nervous host explains that regular citizens like them always get anxious when big corporate agents show up. Noting their unusual vibe, the host offers to show them a room, and the female guard happily accepts the compliment. Putting her cigarette out, the supervisor immediately rejects room 3, which makes the weird host feel highly suspicious. The woman explains that her special mechanical nose can easily detect the smell of blood, which she absolutely detests. This strange comment makes the green host ask about her actual profession, but she quickly refuses to share any details. When the host asks if her office is nice, the female supervisor proudly claims that she works at the best place ever. The host grins and mentions better shops, but the cold woman reminds him that she did not come here for entertainment. The host nervously asks if they are under arrest, but the female guard explains she only wants information on a customer. Shaking with fear, the man lights a cigarette and explains that a single leak will completely ruin his sketchy business. While the rookie watches in silence, the supervisor begins to list all the dark crimes happening behind these closed doors. She points out that they drug lonely customers to steal their organs and sell them on the black market. The green host breaks into a cold sweat and wonders how she managed to discover their highly classified secrets. Smiling calmly, she offers to hide their massive crimes if they simply hand over all the data on their target. The host hesitates to accept the deal, while his hidden thugs wait in the back room for a signal to strike. The supervisor suggests a quiet deal, and the green host realizes he has no choice but to listen to her. With a nervous smile, the shady businessman officially accepts the terms to save himself from getting arrested. The female guard immediately demands to see the local security camera recordings of their target. She gestures for the quiet rookie to come closer and look at the glowing documents with her. Walking forward, the teenager nervously wonders if his skilled supervisor has already discovered his secret thoughts. Together they watch the recorded video of a private room where a middle-aged man sits next to a broken robot. The host in the video warns him about the damage, and the customer calmly explains that he is retiring and leaving the city. The customer refuses to help the host and mentions his plans to retire quietly in a place called the Rat Hole. Leaving the broken machine behind, the traveler bids farewell to the host and prepares to walk away with his companion. Before they can leave, the entrance bell rings as a mysterious figure dressed like a police officer suddenly steps inside. The newcomer proudly presents a childish crayon drawing and claims that it is an official arrest warrant. This silly act amuses the host since actual police forces were disbanded decades ago during the corporate takeover. Ignoring the mockery, the fake officer warns them that he will use physical force if they refuse to cooperate. Highly annoyed by the weird situation, the shady host quickly clenches his fist to strike the intruder. The self-proclaimed apostle of justice threatens to use violence, while the host mockingly invites him to try his best. A sudden devastating strike erupts in the room, which completely shocks the onlookers as part of the structure crumbles. The bizarre attacker raises his hand to declare his holy mission and easily blows the green host away with a single punch. Slowly approaching the survivors, the strange fighter calmly points his finger and announces that they are also under arrest. The retired executive sweatily wonders if this dangerous intruder is just a completely brainless lunatic. Checking his profile on her screen, the female guard instantly recognizes him as a hunting dog from a rival corporation. The fake cop warns them that interfering with his enforcement authority will lead to a painful trial under corporate law. The fake cop rants about how people only care about money instead of actual justice as the supervisor listens silently. He boldly declares his plan to steal the entire corporation for himself while a dark red silhouette of a Clash appears. The female supervisor refuses to let him take anything and warns that she will stop him by using extreme force. A sudden strike begins to unfold in the dark room as the rival agent prepares to defend his position. Someone secretly reaches down to press a small hidden trigger on the floor to disrupt the entire area. A loud emergency siren suddenly echoes through the room and bathes the entire space in a deep red glow. The fake cop complains about this cheap trick, but the supervisor calmly explains that they are not the ones behind it. One of the bystanders gets completely shocked when a hidden hand suddenly grabs a heavy weapon from the shadows. A group of local thugs with sharp knives suddenly ambushes them from the dark corners of the building. The young rookie quickly ducks down to dodge a dangerous slash aimed straight at his neck. Chaos erupts in the hallway as the aggressive criminals swarm them from all sides without any warning. Despite his lack of combat experience, the boy manages to hold his ground and find an opening. He unleashes a swift counterattack to defend himself, while the crowded brawl gets increasingly wild. Watching the intense action from behind her golden visor, the female supervisor calmly observes his moves. The tired protagonist faces another armed opponent and prepares to make a decisive strike to end the fight. Suddenly, the curly-haired boy fires a powerful blast that easily knocks down the swarming thugs. Fresh blood splatters all over the security camera while the fake officer yells at them to freeze. The rival agent suggests that they should just walk away, but the young boy demands that he speak up. Instead of talking, the fake cop unleashes a devastating punch that sends the teenager flying backwards. The entire room erupts into complete chaos as both sides scramble to get a tactical advantage. Recovering from the heavy blow, the brave kid loads his shotgun and aims it directly at the rival agent. The boy aims his heavy gun and pulls the trigger to unleash a powerful blast. The dangerous shot hits the target, but the young rookie gets incredibly shocked by the outcome. Moving with incredible speed, the fake officer suddenly lunges forward to deliver a deadly strike. A powerful blow sends the young protagonist flying backwards straight into the messy trash cans. His supervisor watches the intense action and notes that their enemy is actually a tough opponent. Getting back on his feet, the teenager mentions his advanced nervous system stimulation to prepare for a rematch. The rival agent boasts about his high-tech cognitive programming and claims that the rookie is destined to lose. Staring closely, the young protagonist realizes that the enemy only possesses superhuman reaction speed. The rival agent tries to predict his movement, but the clever rookie prepares a tricky feint with his leg. Realizing he got completely tricked, the fake officer barely manages to block a devastating head kick. They exchange a flurry of rapid blows before the young hero gets disarmed and his pistol goes flying into the air. Losing his balance during the chaotic struggle, the poor boy falls headfirst straight into a wooden trash can. The heavy bin tips over with a loud crash, leaving the miserable teenager covered in garbage with a banana peel on his head. Watching the chaotic brawl from a distance, a bystander remarks that these two fighters just refuse to stop. The protagonist watches the struggle and decides to jump back into the fight. He gets completely shocked when a glowing projection of Seo-hyun suddenly appears right before his eyes. She tells him to stop looking ridiculous and commands him to show off his cool gravity powers. The terrifying skeletal frame of the gravity monster immediately manifests to take control of the battle. Moving with insane speed, the heavy machine unleashes a flurry of devastating blows to crush the rival agent. Shaking off the painful memory of his defeat, the teenager suddenly opens his eyes to face reality again. He delivers a powerful kick that activates his thrusters and sends the enemy crashing through the wall. The fierce brawl continues as the young hero lands a heavy strike and barely avoids a quick counter from his opponent. Spotting a sharp knife on the ground, the quick teenager grabs it to turn the tide of this exhausting battle. Lunging forward with the weapon, he gets locked in a desperate test of physical strength against the rival agent. Suddenly, a bright blue sensor on the helmet flashes while a strange mechanical whirring sound fills the entire area. A powerful shockwave of green energy erupts from the machine and blows the young protagonist backward. Emerging from the bright green light, a towering hooded figure suddenly steps into the room and stops the fight. The female guard looks in shock and desperately calls out to see if the rookie can still hear her. She demands to know if he is in control because he just broke their strict deployment protocol. Inside the heavy armor, the teenager realizes his mind is surprisingly clear, unlike during his first transformation. The protagonist decides this is his perfect chance to run away instead of paying off that ridiculous debt. He plans to escape this crazy situation and track down the white-haired doctor entirely on his own. The female supervisor looks at him in disbelief because she cannot believe he reached a limit break so quickly. She decides to keep stalling with words until his energy runs out so she can safely drag him back to base. The supervisor plans to patch things up quickly and then dump the troublesome rookie onto another team leader. Thinking of faking dizziness to escape, the teenager suddenly realizes that his mechanical system is actually shutting down. A sudden heavy impact shakes his giant frame as he struggles to stay conscious during the intense battle. Spotting a tiny opening in the wreckage, the boy decides to run away to find the white-haired doctor. The supervisor quickly presses the emergency button on her controller to pause his mechanical body. Breaking through the barrier with incredible speed, the giant monster easily bypasses the rival corporate agent. The rival agent watches the escape in surprise and realizes that the weird rookie was the key to everything. The rival agent threatens to break the boy's neck and demands that they hand over the entire company right now. Suddenly, the rookie activates his gravity power and causes both of them to start floating off the ground. Readying his massive metal fist, the young protagonist prepares to deliver a devastating punch to his opponent. His shocked supervisor watches as the rival agent gets blown away by the incredible force of his gravity strike. The massive strike easily shatters the wall, but the teenager suddenly realizes he overlooked a major detail. Because of the bad construction, the entire building begins to collapse and completely buries him under the debris. The ceiling collapses completely, burying the giant mechanical rookie under heavy concrete debris. Seeing the disaster, the female supervisor runs over to the wreckage and desperately starts digging through the rubble. Sweating from the intense effort, she finally spots his damaged mechanical frame trapped beneath the heavy stones. Angrily shouting for him to wake up, she desperately struggles to drag his heavy mechanical body out of the debris. Lifting him onto her shoulder, the female guard slowly walks away from the collapsing area with her heavy burden. She asks if he is finally awake and groans as she tries to stabilize his shutting system. Looking closely at him, the young woman asks if he actually brought down the entire building just to escape from them. The supervisor supports the injured teenager as they slowly make their way out of the destroyed building. Suddenly, a hand reaches out from the rubble and firmly grabs the female guard by her mechanical leg. The defeated rival agent desperately begs them to save his life too because he cannot move his broken body. Without showing any mercy, the cold supervisor violently kicks the annoying man away and tells him to get lost. The injured rival agent complains that she is being extremely cruel to a fellow corporate soldier in need. Ignoring his pathetic pleas, she carries the heavy rookie away while more debris continues to fall around them. A loud beep echoes through the dusty air as the entire area begins to collapse behind the escaping pair. Shoving the boy into a vehicle, the tired supervisor complains about how incredibly heavy his mechanical frame is. She decides to initiate a full reboot sequence to finally bring her troublesome rookie partner back online. Waking up after the crash, the young rookie lets out a tired sigh as he looks at his hands. His supervisor watches him closely while he tries to recover his strength. The boy apologizes for being a bad partner and sincerely thanks her for saving his life. Instead of accepting his apology, she delivers a sudden strike straight to his face. The angry woman calls him a useless piece of trash and tells him he must return to the company. She keeps lecturing the guard for losing their target and making a mess of their mission. Walking away in frustration, she promises to throw him straight back into the training academy. The protagonist spots a perfect chance to escape and decides to steal the vehicle despite having no license. Meanwhile, the talkative rival agent continues to ramble about his bad habit of easily letting his guard down. Suddenly, the sound of a roaring engine echoes through the area as the car comes speeding forward. The young driver screams in absolute terror as he completely loses control of the stolen vehicle. Flying through the air, the out-of-control car crashes directly into a massive utility pole with a loud bang. Watching the chaotic crash, the female supervisor calmly touches her rookie partner to continue their conversation. Right behind them, the heavily damaged electrical pole sparks violently and looks ready to collapse at any moment. The heavily damaged electrical pole finally snaps and sends dangerous wires falling straight toward the ground. Watching the sudden collapse, the female supervisor can only shout in absolute frustration at the messy situation. Instead of running away, the young protagonist gives her a massive, goofy grin and says he came back to save her. He proudly repeats his heroic claim while the annoyed woman stares back at him with a completely deadpan look. Now sitting together inside the getaway car, she remarks how some people always return to make things even worse. The tension rises again when the sweating boy realizes he has no idea how to actually put the vehicle in reverse. His partner stares at him with absolute exhaustion as she realizes just how hopeless her new rookie truly is. The young rookie admits he does not have a license, and his partner instantly yells at him in pure frustration. Outside their windshield, the rival agent lifts the heavy utility pole and admits he let his guard down earlier. Fixing his armor, the determined opponent prepares to stand his ground and block their vehicle from escaping. Ordering the boy to grip the steering wheel, the supervisor quickly forces him to press down hard on the pedal. Tires screech loudly as the getaway car swerves wildly across the uneven road to bypass the enemy. The aggressive rival agent suddenly charges straight at the speeding vehicle and slams heavily onto the hood. The onboard computer automatically registers a survival anomaly and immediately deploys heavy weapons on the roof. The vehicle's roof weapon suddenly fires a powerful laser beam that knocks the rival agent backward. Surviving the heavy blast, the frustrated opponent struggles to stand and complains about their crazy firepower. Calling them absolute cowards, the injured rival quickly retreats while promising a fair rematch in the future. When the rookie asks to shoot the fleeing enemy, his partner immediately commands him to get out of the car. Back at the rooftop, the annoyed supervisor demands to know why he almost crushed them all with his gravity power. Looking down in complete silence, the young protagonist can only offer a quiet apology for his reckless actions. The angry woman cruelly remarks that he is nothing but dead weight and a worthless tool belonging to the company. Letting out a tired sigh, the supervisor walks away while warning the teenager to stay quiet and follow her orders. The boy complains that they barely survived, but his partner acts like she knows absolutely everything. He remembers the white-haired doctor talking about facing the corporate scum directly to keep the initiative. After recalling her deep words about humanity, the young guard is suddenly pulled back to reality by a loud cough. He turns to his supervisor and boasts that he still managed to save her from that dangerous battle. The young man explains that running them over with their car allowed them to escape in one piece. Although he admits he made a few mistakes along the way, he highlights that his rescue plan worked. The female guard notes that retreating was safer than fighting, but she suddenly gets shocked by a bad realization. The angry supervisor claims she was about to defeat the enemy before the teenager went totally crazy. She ignores his excuses and threatens to send him straight back to the headquarters to get completely dismantled. He complains about her half-baked advice as the mental projection of the doctor simply makes a face and disappears. The supervisor contacts their corporate boss to report that their main target managed to escape during the chaos. She angrily suggests destroying the rookie unit because he is completely useless for their future missions. Raising his hand, the young protagonist steps forward and claims his extreme actions were necessary to win the battle. The boy falsely admits he only made the wrong call because his beloved supervisor was in extreme danger. Sinabro warns them about getting too attached and reminds them that disobeying the company leads to severe punishment. The teenager pledges his absolute loyalty to the company while his supervisor quickly tries to defend her own actions. He begs for their trust and promises to capture the rogue doctor who ruined his entire life. The supervisor claims his words are lies while the boy bows and trembles under the intense pressure of his boss. This sudden pledge of submission causes the weird brain commander to burst into loud and uncontrollable laughter. Calming down, the leader orders Hanil to head straight to a place called the Rat Hole for his next task. The young guard gets totally confused when the boss reveals that his partner lied about him getting a cut of the money. The supervisor explains that they must first visit the Rat Hole where his situation will only get worse. They drive through the neon city where massive screens advertise robotic companions to lonely citizens. The woman tells him to just shoot the doctor if he cannot forget her, but the boy quickly denies it. They soon arrive at the fourth exit, which leads directly into the dangerous depths of the rat hole. The boy notes that actual rats became very rare after the massive world war destroyed everything. As civilization collapsed, all the weak people in the city became targets of hatred and exile. These outcasts eventually chose to attach cheap, discarded machine parts directly onto their bodies to survive. These outcasts dug into abandoned spaces and claimed their own lawless territory, which became known as the Rat Hole. As they try to enter, a sketchy guard blocks their path and demands to see their identification card. The gatekeeper inspects the card and laughs because their fake company name sounds incredibly ridiculous. The female supervisor points to her partner and claims that the quiet rookie is the actual product they brought. Hearing this, the braided guard smiles happily and says this deal works out perfectly for his financial problems. Stepping into the dark slums, the young protagonist realizes that his very first day of rat duty has officially begun. A loud radio broadcast echoes through the dirty alleyways as a strange artist introduces a new song about hope. The poncho-wearing artist asks the robotic boy if he likes the tune, but the teen firmly claims he is still human. This answer completely shocks the young mechanic, who realizes the boy standing before her is actually just a machine. She excitedly boasts about her skills as a top corporate engineer while pointing at her proudest energy-generating invention. A romantic pop song suddenly plays from the speaker, which prompts the girl to get lost in her own deep emotions. Narrowing her eyes, the creator prepares to start her experiment while the terrified teenager desperately begs her to stay away. Hearing a loud scream coming from the hallway, the curly-haired youth quickly slides the heavy door open to check the noise. Stepping inside the dark room, he spots a bandaged patient facing a heavy mechanical piston that is aiming directly at them. Before him stands a mysterious figure wearing a wide hat and a single glowing yellow lens over its bandaged face. The young protagonist can only watch in utter confusion as the strange machine suddenly zooms away on a fast motorcycle. Looking down from her balcony, the female supervisor gets completely shocked when she witnesses the bizarre escape. The orange-haired engineer happily announces that she has finally taken full control over the mechanical doll. She points her finger and warns the terrified rookie that she will rebuild his empty metal skull to fit her own designs. Raising a massive drill, the crazy girl shows off her terrifying new robot that is built to easily crush human skulls. The supervisor gets called back inside as the laughing engineer proudly displays her finished work ahead of schedule. The young mechanic reveals that the head of security ordered her to handle the main control system for their next task. This update makes the tired supervisor realize she has no choice but to keep working under her crazy commander. During their corporate call, the boss decides to keep the young rookie on active duty by strengthening his control system. The supervisor tells an injured rebel to get up, while the crazy creator laughs about testing her new system on him. Standing up with an angry look, the red-hooded fighter complains about the brutal treatment he just received from them. The boss explains the attack was necessary and orders them to search the rat hole for any dangerous traps. The supervisor prepares to head out and orders their robotic recruit to join the dangerous mission. Walking deeper into the slums, the supervisor tells the rookie to stay close as the suffocating crowd surrounds them. The young rookie suddenly collapses onto the ground in pure agony while his partner watches him with extreme concern. Trying to hide his intense pain, the teenager weakly jokes that his new metal body at least keeps him from throwing up. Watching from a nearby rooftop, the young mechanic notes how funny it is to see a mechanical doll wandering the slums. To help him recover, they stop at a shady food stall where a friendly vendor serves them a hot bowl of soup. Sitting together under the sunset, the boy realizes how strange it feels to consume regular food in his robotic frame. Eating the hot noodles causes a sudden burst of steam to shoot straight out of the back of the boy's neck. The supervisor remarks how they at least do not have to worry about indigestion in these machine bodies. Watching his companion smoke multiple cigarettes, the young rookie wonders if she ever takes a break to rest. Gathering his courage, the teenager nervously asks when she usually gets off work to see if they can finally rest. She coldly responds that they will get absolutely no breaks until they track down a man named Park Si-yoon. She reveals they must borrow a transport vehicle to reach a highly dangerous and irradiated enemy lake area. Hearing about the radiation zone makes the young man worry because he will need a special shielding chip. Holding her chopsticks, the girl tells her partner to brace himself and stand up straight to get moving. Tears almost fall when the young protagonist picks up a disgusting insect with his chopsticks and groans in frustration. A weird local guide with goggles points them toward a quiet warehouse where they can find a cheap vehicle. Sitting inside a messy truck, the young rookie asks his supervisor why they cannot just use a fancy hovercar instead. She explains that flying in a fancy vehicle would immediately turn them into prime targets for the angry local rebels. The bumpy ride makes the boy ask her to drive a little gentler, but his cold supervisor tells him to shut up and enjoy. Meanwhile, a mysterious armored soldier tries to take a motorcycle and proudly claims to be a true champion of justice. The self-proclaimed champion of justice demands fuel for his ride while completely ignoring a local thug who got there first. Gripping the handles, the strange rider insults the angry bystanders before zooming away at full speed. Meanwhile, the female supervisor warns her partner that they are entering the dangerous territory of the Lonskin cult. Looking at the weird cult base, the young rookie mentions he used to see their strange machines in his old neighborhood. The protagonist quietly wonders if his life would be much better now if he had joined their temple back then. Creepy figures in yellow hoods watch them from above as their vehicle slowly approaches the massive cliff fortress. The supervisor instructs him to prepare his scanner because their target might be hiding directly among the cultists. The rookie suddenly discovers a scanning feature in his mechanical eyes, but struggles to get a clear view of the area. His supervisor warns him to be careful as they quietly observe the mysterious crowd of cultists standing in the distance. Their cover is immediately blown when some of the hooded figures turn around and point directly at their hidden vehicle. The girl wonders how they got spotted until she realizes the boy's robotic eyes are literally beaming with a bright red light. The hostile crowd quickly surrounds the vehicle and angrily demands to know why they are spying on their private meeting. Staring back at his furious partner, the teenager weakly explains that he did not know his eyes possessed a glowing feature. Deeply regretting her life choices, the exhausted woman covers her face and wonders why she got paired with such a clumsy rookie. The supervisor quickly opens the window to explain that she is just traveling with her injured little brother. The creepy cultists stare suspiciously while she keeps making up a fake story about their family vacation. To make her lie look real, the rookie acts completely foolish and asks when they are going to eat. Believing their silly excuse, the hooded cultists welcome them and invite the new followers to join their worship. They are quickly led up the steep stairs toward the massive fortress towering over the wasteland. While walking together, the aggressive supervisor suddenly kicks the boy to make sure he is staying alert. She quietly whispers for him to scan the area for their target and threatens to dismantle his body if he fails. Looking at the giant temple, the young guard decides that playing dumb is his absolute best option to survive. While walking together, the young man summarizes their plan to look for the target inside the strange church. Stepping inside the temple, they immediately notice the creepy red lights and the strange decorations made of skulls. The supervisor quietly observes her surroundings while trying to keep a very low profile. Standing in the crowd, the young rookie secretly activates his scanning device to search for their target. On the main stage, a creepy masked leader suddenly appears and begins preaching a wild sermon about survival. The crowd gets excited as the preacher tells his followers to plunder anyone who has more than enough. Checking her wrist screen, the supervisor quietly admits that the man they are looking for is not in the room. As they quietly try to leave the area, a creepy voice suddenly calls out to stop them right in their tracks. The main leader asks the new believers where they are going and warns them that leaving their seats is strictly forbidden. To avoid any unnecessary trouble, the smart supervisor politely claims her little brother urgently needs to use the restroom. The cult leader mockingly points at the boy's head and states that he would rather tear down such a nice body for spare parts. He warns them about showing off corporate tech and mentions they already captured their main target named Park Si-yoon. The supervisor stays alert while the crazy preacher declares that the entire lawless area belongs completely to his cult. Looking forward to a massive payout, the creepy host announces that they will now harvest their expensive bodies by force. The malicious cultists laugh loudly while the two heroes quickly realize they are in deep trouble. Suddenly, a mysterious bird flies above them while its dark eye watches the entire scene closely. The creature suddenly crashes straight into a nearby power tower and causes a massive distraction. A small metallic object lands right in front of the crowd and makes the preacher turn around. Someone rapidly runs forward while dragging a heavy metal pipe along the dusty ground. The hostile crowd quickly swarms around the main characters and prepares to strike them down. Before the angry thug can land his blow, a sudden powerful strike from the shadows knocks him out. The supervisor quickly kicks down a hostile cultist to clear a path for their escape. Spotting an open doorway nearby, the two companions quickly run inside to get away from the angry crowd. Before the cultists can follow them, the heavy metal door slams shut and gets locked from the inside. They run down the dark corridor while hearing the angry enemies shouting and banging on the walls behind them. Pressing her back against the wall, the sweating supervisor tries to catch her breath after the intense chase. Outside the room, the cultists laugh loudly and order their men to bring the ceremonial bell to deal with the intruders. Looking around the dark hallway, the rookie sadly realizes they just got pushed even deeper into the enemy base. Gunshots suddenly echo down the corridor as the young guard prepares to face the next wave of dangers. A sudden loud noise shakes the area, and the supervisor notes that their current situation is looking extremely bad. She asks him to use his gravity power to hold back the enemies, but the boy admits he cannot control it yet. The supervisor reminds him that he is their most valuable asset and must activate his ability so they can survive. The rookie suggests using the new tech from the slums to adjust the power and wonders if she truly trusts him. She promises to shut him down with her controller if he starts losing control of his dangerous gravity field. The teenager still worries that the corporation will turn his body into a giant generator if he makes a mistake. The supervisor calls him an idiot and explains that everyone in this harsh world has to live under extreme pressure. Looking down with tired eyes, the quiet protagonist wonders why living like a slave is actually better than dying. A young rebel tells him that nobody actually needs a special reason to exist, and that they just have to keep living. Accepting those words, the young guard clenches his mechanical fist and resolves to survive this terrible nightmare. With a sudden powerful punch, he activates his giant armor as the heavy systems lock directly into combat mode. Meanwhile, a corporate rival warns the boss that using this advanced technology on a mere security guard is a massive waste. The weird commander rejects the suggestion because he wants to capture the rogue doctor and rebuild her creations. He also wants to monitor the protagonist closely to see if the teenager can unlock even more destructive gravity powers. The cultists are shocked to see the heavy metal rookie carrying his partner high up into the air. Breaking straight through the ceiling of the temple, the giant machine uses his gravity power to ascend. Floating effortlessly above the structures, the armored teen carries his companion away from the hostile crowd. The female guard stares in absolute shock because flying was definitely not part of his standard database. Holding her tightly, he commands his partner to get ready as he prepares to drop straight down into the target zone. They crash down like a meteor to confront the cult leader and find the exact location of their target. Jumping back into action, the team moves rapidly because a massive reinforcement request has just been activated. The hostile cultists notice the flying corporate frame and immediately rush forward to catch it. The protagonist lands safely with his partner, but notes his internal system is already taking damage. She warns him that they are completely outnumbered, while he struggles to maintain control of his body. The girl decides they must target the enemy boss directly to disperse this endless crowd of thieves. A massive storm of bullets hits them, but his heavy armor easily blocks the dangerous incoming attacks. The young rookie clenches his metal fist and uses his maximum power to maintain the defensive barrier. The cult leader mockingly claims that they will soon dismantle the intruders to steal their expensive parts. The supervisor then asks if he can let a single bullet pass through his gravity shield to hit their target. The kid tries to shatter the protective glass with a simple finger flick, but he only manages to crack the surface. His supervisor is disappointed by this basic strategy and notes that they cannot use him as a shield forever. She tells her quiet rookie partner to think of a better plan while the hostile crowd observes them from a distance. Seeing their sudden hesitation, the angry cult leader commands his armed followers to immediately open fire. A massive hail of bullets rains down on them, and the boy complains that his defensive shield is reaching its limit. The supervisor suggests manipulating his gravity field to float into the air so they can easily escape the trap. The teenager explains that flying is extremely difficult because his power requires a massive amount of conscious will. She explains that changing the gravity settings takes time and will release all the trapped bullets. The supervisor quickly presses her controller to start turning off his heavy gravity shield. The confused enemy demands answers as the floating bullets begin to move in the air again. A massive wall of bullets prepares to fly straight at the shocked young guard. Clicking his metallic boots, the rookie prepares to move while his partner yells to turn the power back on. Seeing his chance, the creepy cult leader commands his followers to shoot the defenseless team. The brave teenager shouts that they are going up right now and activates his powerful thrusters. The rookie activates his powerful thrusters and blasts straight into the air while carrying his supervisor. The female guard is completely amazed that they are actually ascending, but her partner tells her to hold on tightly. Suddenly, his massive gravity power begins to act up, and the teenager panics because he cannot control their speed. The shocked woman demands answers, while the boy complains that his metallic face feels like it is literally tearing apart. His head feels like it might explode as her system detects abnormal symptoms and starts an emergency optimization. The system runs the automatic process to store the data and successfully stabilizes his crashing machine. Looking at her silent partner, the young woman gently asks if he is finally starting to feel a bit better. The rookie catches his breath and notes that the intense flight almost blew his helmet right off his head. Looking down at the view, they suddenly realize that they have floated way too high and must find a way back down. Disaster strikes when the supervisor suddenly loses her grip and begins plummeting toward the hard ground. Moving with incredible speed, the giant metal rookie dives down and successfully catches her in midair. The young man grumbles about how saving her from falling is becoming an absolute pain. He admits that he almost failed and explains he never wants to lose anyone again because of his silly mistakes. The female guard tells him not to worry since she has absolutely no intention of dying in this terrible place. She demands that he pull her up, and he quickly wraps his heavy arms around her to keep her completely safe. The supervisor promises to take all the responsibility and suggests descending slowly to terrify their enemies. She tells him to leave the main boss to her while the young guard complains about this crazy drop. They begin their descent, but the rookie keeps complaining about ending up in such a terrible corporate department. He immediately loses control of his speed, which makes his angry partner shout at him to slow down. Looking up at the sky, the cultists think a massive meteor is falling on them and quickly run away. The panicked supervisor screams at him to brake, while the rookie desperately tries to slow their descent. They crash right through the glass container of the leader, who rolls away on wheels while funny music plays. The glass capsule rolls away wildly with the terrified target still trapped inside it. Dusting herself off, the supervisor complains that his terrible driving made this the absolute worst ride. They quickly corner the man, and the cold woman calmly threatens to hurt him if he refuses to talk.